Huachuca, one of the most modern of all the Army's installations. Here in this desolate country, surrounded by empty desert and mountains, the Army has found an ideal proving grounds for newly developed electronic equipment. Today, more than 8,000 military and civilian personnel are working together, testing and improving modern miracles of military science. Because the Army must be prepared to defend against push-button warfare, every effort is being made to keep abreast of the very latest scientific advances. We have come a long way from the wigwag flags used by the Army in Indian warfare to this tiny transistor. Powerful miniature devices like this have paved the way for new, compact, lightweight electronic equipment. There she goes, the new pilotless plane, the drone. Here's a closer look at this amazing reconnaissance robot recently tested at Fort Huachuca. Called the drone, it is designed to carry photographic equipment or a TV camera. Only 15 feet long, the radio-controlled drone reaches a speed of 220 miles an hour within seconds of takeoff. While a drone takes all the risks, its pilot remains safely behind in a mobile control van. Not only does the drone save lives, but it is inexpensive, easy to transport and set up, and capable of flying in any weather. Military observer teams watch as an RP-71 drone conducts a simulated photo reconnaissance mission, and this is what the drone sees. A clear picture like this would quickly reveal any enemy vehicles or troops. From the top of the control van, an optical tracking device follows the flight of the drone. At the same time, radar is also used, thus enabling the drone's operator to know and chart its location at all times. Its mission completed, the pilotless plane turns for home. When the drone has returned to its launching site, its engine is cut off and a parachute inside released. The photos taken by this drone were developed less than an hour after the original launching. A dramatic demonstration of military science in action at Fort Huachuca.
What is an RPV? This term, used by aviation people, commonly refers to an unmanned, remotely piloted aircraft. One of the most important features in this type of vehicle is its ability to perform like any other modern aircraft, but with the pilot many miles away on the ground or in another aircraft. Many people still think of unmanned aircraft as drones, and they tend to think of drones as old or obsolete aircraft that have been fitted with short-range radio control systems and used as targets for training operations. This is not so today. RPVs are being planned from original concept and design. As an example, this new prototype concept. In its maneuvering capability, the RPV can be far superior to a manned plane. This is because a manned aircraft's maneuvers are limited to the G-forces that the human body can tolerate. But an RPV, which does not have a pilot, is only limited by the structure of the aircraft itself. As for speed, some RPVs are capable of supersonic speeds and extreme altitudes. Or they can be designed to fly at levels as low as 50 feet. They can be air-launched or ground-launched. And their radio controls are no longer short-range. Today, the RPV can be flown over enemy territory by an operator or pilot in friendly territory many miles away. He can fly the bird from a ground station or from an airborne station. And with the use of other high-flying drones or satellites as relay stations, an RPV could be controlled even thousands of miles from the pilot station. And they can be recovered after a mission and reused over and over. With the space required for a crew eliminated, RPVs have an extremely small radar cross-section, making them difficult to detect by enemy radar. Their engines are relatively small, so they do not present a large target for infrared detectors. Some late model RPVs have their engines mounted on top of the fuselage, so they are even more difficult to detect from the ground. Now, why are they used? RPVs have been used to perform many hazardous missions that could have caused a high probability of aircraft loss. This probability is increasing because enemy anti-aircraft capabilities are increasing. In Southeast Asia, we had to face two types of surface-to-air missile systems. But today, our aircraft could be faced with at least 4 other missile systems. And anti-aircraft fire directed by radar. Working together, these weapons can take a heavy toll in aircraft. So today, when considering the total force structure, the military must take several parameters into account when using aircraft. Stringent financial limitations, the potential of having to fight in a much more lethal environment, and the growing concern about our pilots becoming POWs. As stated before, RPVs were originally drone aircraft intended for use as targets. This is a subsonic RPV target. However, it was realized that the target RPVs could be modified to perform many hazardous missions, usually performed by manned aircraft. Reconnaissance is a good example. Their use in Southeast Asia for aerial reconnaissance is well known by now. RPVs were able to penetrate and photograph routinely the most hazardous areas on a regular basis. As these photographs of Hanoi, taken from an RPV and published in an aviation industry magazine, show. Note in these two the before and after. RPVs fitted with special pods have the capability to penetrate ahead of strategic and attack aircraft to dispense chaff, creating a safe flight corridor for manned aircraft. RPVs with specialized equipment can be used in signal intelligence gathering and as an electronic countermeasures vehicle. RPVs equipped with altitude sensors and television have conducted missions at very low altitudes. The low altitude plus their small size makes them almost impossible to detect by radar. It is becoming increasingly apparent that RPV capabilities cover a wide range of missions. For instance, tests have been conducted to evaluate RPV capabilities as an attack aircraft. This vehicle made a remotely controlled bombing run carrying two 500-pound bombs. This test was made at low level with the vehicle carrying bomblet dispensing pods. In attack roles, such as defense suppression, tests have been conducted with the vehicle carrying an air-to-ground weapon of the type equipped with either television or anti-radiation target homing system. These tests were conducted with a Maverick and Hobos missile. Since these missiles guide themselves to the target, the small, fast, and maneuverable RPV makes an extremely effective penetration and delivery vehicle in hazardous areas. By use of the onboard television system, the RPV controller can make his own real-time damage assessment and make an immediate re-attack if necessary. Plus, all of the video can be recorded for playback even if the RPV is lost in action. Undergoing testing now is an RPV which serves as a launch platform for the new laser-guided weapons. Compass Cope R is one of the new breed of RPVs designed specifically for high-altitude, long-endurance intelligence gathering. Advanced navigation systems even make the use of full-time piloting unnecessary. Today it is possible for an RPV to fly to the target, perform its mission, and get out unmanned. These, of course, are only a few of the roles that are under investigation for RPVs. So where do we stand today? We know we face a spectrum of threats that are far more lethal than we have ever encountered. The development and use of RPVs has just barely begun. More emphasis should be placed on this field, as it is realized that pilotless aircraft are required as an adjunct to and not a replacement for manned aircraft. That they are intended for those high-risk or long-endurance missions where fatigue and attrition rates are unacceptable for manned aircraft. It is no longer acceptable to expose human life to situations where remotely piloted vehicles could do the job. And the capability to produce those vehicles now exists.
Flew a series of evaluation flights in Operation Belfry Express. These were the first low-altitude day photo mission vehicles to be launched from surface zero-length launchers. The years 1969 and 1970 also saw the introduction of the Teledyne Ryan RPV model 147T. The T was ordered by the Air Force as a successor to the 147H for high-altitude missions. This vehicle used the proven H airframe and Hycon's 338A camera system. The principal advancement in the T was the new Continental J100CA-100 engine. Additional improvements were made in the Doppler navigation equipment and with systems previously used in the H to increase survivability. Because of its superior high-altitude capability, the T model has also proved to be a fine platform for conducting electronic intelligence missions. In the fall of 1969, 4 T craft were converted to the TE configuration. This model proved so useful for real-time intelligence collection that in 1970, an additional 15 were similarly configured. The 147TE intercepts radio signal data from transmitters and relays the signals over data link back to the control station. System sensitivity is such that reconnaissance is possible up to 325 miles from the location of the high-flying TE. As a follow-on to the 147 TE prototype program, the Model 147 TF was designed to more completely meet the user's requirements. Radio frequency intelligence reception had been broadened, command control was improved, and subsystem reliability was verified by environmental qualification. Other improvements included an increased fuel capacity and extended flight and glide endurance profiles. Electronic enhancements were provided, such as a continuously updated return-to-base heading and a capability to switch command guidance to the downlink antenna, thus increasing gain from 5 to 18 decibels. At the present time, RPV research and development programs continue apace. New models and modifications are constantly being tested and proven. The SSM model, a BQM modified by the U.S. Navy in a development program, has been given the peculiar role of kamikaze-like destroyer. Shown here in Navy test footage, the SSM effectually impacts the target with its load of explosives. In another, the development of Model 234 was in direct response to a United States Air Force Systems Command contract awarded on 4 March 1971. 27 weeks after contract go-ahead, the buildup of the 234 was completed. And on 14 December 1971, the first direct hit from an RPV launched missile was successfully accomplished. On a second test 1 week later, the RPV launch platform again delivered the missile for a successful firing and another direct hit on the target. The remote control